Not one is the same times in our lives. We've all been down, pushed too much around, learning to move along. Hi, I'm inside my house again. It's just so cold out. I don't want to go outside. We don't want to go outside. So I'm going to be doing my video blog in my spare bedroom, which I call my cat's room. This is Curly. He can't wait for me to put him down, right? Oh my. The joy of having little critters. So I decided to talk about my dad's, a continuing saga about my dad, but about his bullying methods and how much that has affected me, cat hair, since I was a young child, how that affects me for the rest of my life, how it heightens your sensitivities to, I guess probably being what an outsider would perceive as overly sensitive to criticism or comments that are negative, that aren't constructive. But until they've walked in my shoes, or anybody's shoes that was highly criticized or bullied by family or, peers, then they need to shut the hell up. I think people that say that you're overly sensitive are the ones that didn't get picked on or bullied, or maybe had a more nurturing environment, so they don't get it. But I don't need to explain myself to these people, and it's none of their damn business. I can remember quite a lot of specific traumatizing incidents growing up, so I'm going to share another one. This one was, we were watching a football game on TV. My dad's a huge Redskins fan. Actually, I am too, but I wouldn't say a huge fan, but that's my team. And this is back in the 70s. I remember this certain incident, and we were, I believe, we were in our townhouse at that time. So I think that was the late 70s, mid to late 70s. And I'm going to guess my age. I'm going to guess I was maybe 11 years old or something in that range. And anyhow, so it was Washington playing Dallas. I believe it was playoffs. I don't think it was Super Bowl. But anyhow, so my dad was like crazy fanatic when it came to football. I mean, yelling, screaming, giving himself cardiac arrest over every freaking game, every single play. So I remember it was towards the end of the game. It was a very high-scoring game. The two teams were going back and forth. It was a really tight game. And it was, me and my dad, probably my brothers and my mom. I don't think we had any friends or other family over for that game. And it was towards the end, and it probably even went into overtime. And I remember, it just came down to even just having to score field goals for a team to win. It wasn't even a matter of having to get a touchdown. So my dad was just wound up tight as a tick, pacing back and forth in front of the TV, just a nervous wreck. And it wasn't fun. He was just on edge and angry. And the Redskins were still up. There was very little time left in the game, probably maybe just a few minutes. And Redskins, Washington had possession of the ball, and they were still up. And I said to my dad, I said something like, oh, they're the whole time I'm thinking, oh God, please win. Washington, please win, because my dad is going to be just in a foul mood the rest of the day and the rest of the week if they don't win. So, the whole time I'm like, oh God, please. We're all like, they're gonna pull it out. And I was like, oh, I said something along the lines of, they're sure to win now. There's very little time left. They had possession of the ball. And I was like, oh, They're sure to win now. They're going to win. And my dad's like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. You might jinx it. Don't say that. It isn't over till it's over. And again, he's just pacing back and forth and just, all tense and everything. And Dallas got possession of the ball. I can't remember if it was an interception or a turnover, or Washington just ran out of all their, first downs and they had to turn the ball back over. And Dallas got possession of the ball. And they won. Needless to say, my dad was livid. But here's the catch. He blamed the loss of the game on me. He was livid. He turned and looked at me and he's like,
I told you not to say that. You jinxed it. They lost because of you. It's your fault. You should have never said that. It's your fault. They would have won if you didn't say anything. You jinxed them. You can't do that.
And he was livid, laid it all into me, and blamed me for their loss. And he went on and on and on, repeating himself and pacing back and forth, and he was furious. I know I didn't get a spanking for that, but I was mentally so berated and felt so hurt. And I was also crushed that I disappointed my dad. I was always trying to please him, and I never could figure out why. And I finally, later in life figured out it's because if he was happy, then we were happy. If he was happy, then there was no wrath of dad. There was no anger and stress. We could relax and let our guard down and enjoy the moment. But, I didn't realize that till way, way, way later in life. I'm just right now almost shaking thinking about how I felt, how it felt. I was so crushed. I was so hurt. I couldn't believe he was blaming me. Obviously, it made no sense. I knew even at a young age that he was completely out of line, that he had no right to say that and treat me that way, that it wasn't my fault. I knew that, but the fact that he said it and was so livid about it, again, there's that breach in the trust, which was already damaged. And it's a continuum. The more, in this case, my father, the more the person that has traumatized you, the more they do it, the more traumatized you become, the more your anxiety is more deep-rooted, the more your PTSD becomes this newer term that I'm more familiar with recently is called complex PTSD, CPTSD. And it is derivative of long-term traumatic effects. I'm going to rephrase that, not effects. Long-term traumatic exposure versus, say, a one-time exposure, something traumatic, which again can be utterly life-changing depending on the magnitude of what it is. So I'm not saying it's quantity makes you a more privileged PTSD person. I'm just saying there's different layers and avenues of PTSD. So mine is in this complex, which means it was over long periods of frequent trauma. And especially when you're a young individual, a child, how that molds and shapes you and leaves permanent scars and what I call hard wiring. So it's really hard to change that because you're molded so much in your psyche as a young child. The younger you are, the more permanent effects it can have on you. That doesn't mean you can't find resources and coping skills and counseling and necessary medication to help improve your situation and make you a better person, and learn how to deal with these problems later in life. It's just sometimes it's an ongoing battle. So it has its ups and downs. But anyhow, I still remember how I felt, that so painfully and deeply hurt. Especially because I was scared to death of my dad. I was afraid of him, but I still loved him because I wanted so much to have a close relationship with him. I felt a bond with him, not because of what he did. It was just a natural chemistry. I didn't have that with my mom. With my mom, she was very off-putting, and I was uncomfortable around her, and angry at her. My dad, I was terrified of him and afraid of him, but it's like when he was good to me, I thought he was the coolest dude on the planet. So there's this paradox. It's not for everybody. That doesn't always happen with everybody. It's just that was the dynamic of my situation. And again, it wasn't because of like a battered syndrome where you become attached to the person that's battering you. It really was because he was still a provider and protector of our family, even though he was victimizing us. Where my mom was in and out of jobs all the time because of her quirky and inappropriate human communication, people skills, and her pessimism. She was in and out of jobs all the time. She had an accountant degree, but she couldn't hold down jobs because of personality conflicts, and it was never her fault. It was always everyone else. Where my dad, he had the same job probably for about, gosh, a good 50 years up until he retired. So there was that stability. So those moments of being bullied by my own father and all the hostility that went on in the household affected me greatly as far as my coping skills and communication skills in life. And I was a painfully introvert, which I think I've mentioned in some other videos. So that affected my school life. So one of these instances with my dad's bullying and violence translated over to how I coped with bullies at school was no different than it was at home, where, obviously I wasn't going to stand up for myself to my dad. I was terrified of him because of what he's done in the past and present at that time, which was being beaten with a belt and being interrogated and made to feel like, completely scared most of the time. So that's the way I dealt with bullies at school. I didn't have that swing of the pendulum where, okay, well, at school I'm going to take care of myself and not let people pick on me. I just was a punching bag at home and a punching bag at school. I can remember specifically one of the instances. I was in second grade, and this was back in the early to mid 70s, around the same time period as the football game incident. And I remember it was I believe first day of school. It was like second or third, it might even been third grade. And I remember back then we had our desks like right next to each other. There was no gap between them where your desk is individual. They were pushed right up next to each other. And I had to sit we were in alphabetical order. So I had to sit, no, actually we weren't, because the guy I sat next to, his last name began with an S. So anyhow, his name was, I still remember his name, back from third grade, Bobby Sherman. And he was a little bratty bully of a kid on the kids that were smaller and weaker than him. He wasn't a big kid by any means, but he was a mean little son of a bitch. And so we're sitting there, we're each in our chairs. He's to my right. I don't even think there was anyone on my left. I don't remember anyone on my left. I might have been on the end seat. Anyhow, he would take his, he was on my right, so he would take his left fist and punch the top of my right thigh really hard. And this was under the desk, so the teacher couldn't see it. And he would just be pounding away, and it would hurt. And he would just do it over and over and over and over and over. Sadistic little fucker. And I wouldn't break into tears, but I was so scared that I wouldn't even make him stop or try to get him to stop. I would literally sit there with my hands on my desk, trying to pay attention to the lesson that the teacher was given. And I was terrified to say anything to her or to him or anyone else. And I'm sure there were a few students behind us that could see what he was doing, but, you know, nobody said anything. And it was very painful because he would just be pounding me frequently and back to back to back, a little fucking jackhammer. And I was terrified to ever say anything to the teacher. So I didn't. And I wouldn't cry, but I was always on the edge of crying because it was very painful. And this went on day after day after day after day. I don't remember for how long. I guess at some point when desks got rearranged, because the teacher liked to rearrange the desk sometimes or the seating order. But this went on for, you know, extended period of time, knowing, and this was my home room. So when I had home room, I had to be subjected to his physical bullying. And I still remember how I felt then, sick to my stomach, terrified, afraid to have to go to school every day. I was just always relieved when it wasn't homeroom, because then I wasn't sitting next to him. But homeroom was at the very beginning of the day in the morning, and I believe it was at the end of the day. So yeah, that was my very stressful just afraid to really say anything, terrified. That's how frozen I would get, and how introvert I was, that I wouldn't even say anything to a teacher or a fellow student. I just sucked it up and dealt with it. And that's pretty much how I dealt with being bullied almost all the time. Just wouldn't say anything to anybody. Not to my parents, not to my mom, not to my dad, not to my brothers, not to a teacher. It was my normal. That became my normal. That was what I was used to. So yeah, that's how painfully introvert I was. You know, now I don't shut up. Grew out of that. But so again, that a violent, scary environment at home translates into your whole life at any age, any gender, any race, any demographic. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it doesn't matter. Countless people are subjected to it, and it's got to stop. So if you can relate to this, or you know somebody that can relate to this, leave a message in the comments below. I usually don't ask people to subscribe or like, because you all know how it works on YouTube. You don't need to be reminded of that. And I'm not doing this to make money. I unfiltered, most of the time unedited. If I edit something, it's because I had to turn off my camera because I got disturbed by somebody or something, and I had to stop video and start again. But most of the time my videos are, if you notice, they're not chopped up and edited, because I'm not looking for things to be perfect. I don't care if I make mistakes in how I pronounce something, or if I lose track of what I'm saying. I try to let things flow and try to be as real as possible. So not too bad for somebody who used to be so painfully introvert. and hyperly self-aware that now I'm just like, you don't have to like me, you don't have to like my videos, fuck it, I don't care. Doing this for myself and anybody that can relate to it and finds any benefit in it. Y'all take care. Peace. We all have pain. Not one is the same. Times in our lives